you guys so much. I'm so excited to be back.
Oh, okay. So tell us, Miami, Paris?
Miami, Paris, Trinidad, now back home in the Peg. Yeah, so it started off by going out to Paris for a client's photo shoot and, you know, going to the Louvre and going to the Eiffel Tower, and just what a great experience being out there. Their sidewalks are super small. That's my only complaint. And they need a little bit more spice on their food, but the wine was delicious. And it's just a completely different culture out there, like very relaxed, very like keep to yourself, but there's like a hustle and bustle, but everybody's in their own world, so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Miami is like my second home, so absolutely enjoyed the sun.
Miami.
Yes.
Yeah, Miami's
Never
so
been.
fun.
No? Okay,
No.
let me know when you want to come, because
Okay.
it is phenomenal.
I'm
So
guessing it was really hot.
super hot. Like,
Yes.
like I would go out in the morning at like 10 a.m. and try and shoot a little Facebook video, and there would be sweat beads rolling down my back in like a 3-minute, like within 3 minutes.
So
it
is
was
it
crazy.
heat and humidity?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's like you really have to know that when you're going out, like prepare for that.
Right.
And then try and dress as loose as you can or as little as you can.
Yes.
Because it's ridiculous. And even the nighttime, like you could go out 7, 8, the sun's down, it's still super humid.
Well, we've been going through a heat wave. I think the hottest in 140 years. Like Saturday
really?
night.
That was crazy.
Saturday night past midnight, it was still 32. Yeah. outside,
Wow.
So, yeah, and like
Land of extreme
no.
temperatures.
I guess the pools have been like your destination with the
yes.
kids.
Yes, we spent a lot of time at the City of Winnipeg pools this summer.
Nice.
And my in-laws were lovely enough to invite us over on Saturday night for the kids to have a swim and come for dinner.
Oh,
and it was lovely.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so I don't think the kids were out of the water for more than 5 minutes the whole time. They
Wow.
were
I would
really
imagine.
fish the whole
I would
time.
I know.
imagine.
Yeah.
It's not like you kind of think, is that enough? No.
Yeah, and
no,
you
no,
step out and you're just like, oh, I'm dry. to dive back in. So yeah.
It's been so crazy.
It was so humid though. I just found it so humid. But people were talking about the curly hair syndrome, so I would straighten my hair. And then it would
Did
be
it
like,
work?
right back up. You couldn't even take 5 minutes out in the
Oh my goodness.
But I loved it. You know, I loved it. It was really nice. But I've been
Where have you been?
everywhere. But I mean, definitely not Trinidad or Miami, which is, I don't know if I would switch with you, but definitely a little envious of that. No, I was in, we were in Vancouver for the Assembly of First Nations elections,
Nice.
which was phenomenal. It was super fun just to be with everyone. So that was really great. And then I came home. And then I had this girlfriend from law school, my friend Roxy. It was her wedding, which was, I have to say, weddings in Calgary, probably one of the best weddings I've ever been to in my life.
Wow.
Like, and I've been to a lot of weddings.
So what made it so good?
You know what? I didn't know anyone, and like the first day, and just how everyone was super welcoming and super fun, and it was a really like it was a 90s like dance party essentially throughout the whole wedding.
Okay.
So that was the kind of crew it was.
Yeah.
Everyone was just having fun. Like, didn't matter if it was a rehearsal dinner or whatever it was. People were just having a really good
That's
time,
good.
and
That's good.
that's super chill. The bride and groom are super chill, and just it was
As
phenomenal.
long as you feel welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole part of it.
Pierogi truck, ice cream, like popsicles, like Moscow Mule popsicles.
Whoa.
Like I'm talking like to the nines. It
Nice.
was phenomenal. And then, but the craziest thing was, so the wedding was Sunday night. It was a long weekend,
Right.
and we were still. I was probably at 3 in the morning. Still, we were still wedding it, and then and then my flight left at 6 a.m. So I went from the wedding straight to the airport. Got off the airport. Haven't slept probably 2 nights now. Got off the airport and have to drive 6 hours to the PA.
Oh boy.
That's
a long day.
I would not be doing that.
Yeah, and
No.
that's
That's
one
when
right to an
self-driving cars
election.
would be really handy.
Yeah. It's been great though. All good stuff, all positive. The PA was beautiful. I encourage people to go take those road trips in Manitoba because you don't know what you're missing.
There's
Just
such beautiful
phenomenal.
destinations like on the outskirts
Oh,
that
yeah.
people never, and it's not far at all, you know what I mean? And just take some time and go and be secluded, and there's so much out there, so I completely agree
Oh,
with you.
it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't
Such a
believe
beautiful
though
drive.
that summer's almost half over.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on this now beautiful patio
Yes.
at Amsterdam Tea Room. So, you know, thanks to Mark. This is
Yes.
your
I know,
yeah,
Mark,
with
your,
us.
what was it called? The Tropical Thunder.
Thunder.
It's a beauty.
Yes,
It's
I
so
Yes.
good.
know. So it was interesting. I was reading this article, and I think all of you will have a comment on it, on what good means. Perception of good. As in, is good average? And if average now is not good, and
Wow.
and or is good just great? And I mean, and it was
that's a tough
really
question.
interesting because
It is.
it was like a personality thing. Are you a good person?
Okay, so
Yeah.
was it in the context of that, like in
Yeah.
terms of behavior?
Behavior,
Or
I
what-
think
okay,
you're right. Yeah,
okay,
and I know
see.
because we'll go into
Yeah.
customer service
Yeah.
Yeah.
a little bit later.
See, and I have problems with words like good and nice. I don't like those words because I think that they are predominantly prescribed to women in terms of how we should behave, and I don't appreciate that. I can understand, that we need to have, decorum and manners and things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, it boils down to kindness and consideration. So I can't be nice and good when I'm not having a nice and good interaction with somebody, right?
Totally.
I love
Right.
that.
We
Okay,
need to also stand up for ourselves and be assertive and take control of a situation where we feel that we don't have any control or we need to protect ourselves as a matter of self-protection, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so what I did on the last day of being 29, when I was in Trinidad, is I actually made a list of non-negotiables. So things that I would no longer accept or take into my 30s. Things that I allowed myself to compromise on in my 20s and all that kind of stuff, and stuff that I just wanted to shut the door on. So I completely agree with you. I think that as individuals, we need to set our standards for what's good. I know when I'm being good in regards to delivering well,
Right.
or being a good person and what that means. And I think that we've gotten away from defining those things for ourselves and then having expectations of others, but setting those non-negotiables for what my expectations are of our relationships, the relationships I have with other people, and what good is to me is not going to ever be what good is to you.
And I agree.
And so it takes communication in relationships. If I'm close enough to you and I care enough about you, you should know what those values are for me. And so I don't use the word good because I just think I'm great and beyond. You know what I mean? So it's like, if that was good, to me that's subpar. It's not even average. Like that's below subpar.
Right.
So I think of it kind of like when a high school diploma used to be enough, right? Now it's like
Now
a
it's not even
master's
close.
degree,
Yeah.
and pretty
Right.
soon it's going to be like, you need a PhD to qualify for anything. So I kind of look at good like that. Like it's just completely off the table. Why
good
is
is kind
anybody?
of a
Why,
four-letter
why
word,
is that
right?
even
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it's a misconception to believe or to kind of perpetuate this idea that we all have the same definition of anything.
Yeah.
Those definitions of who we are and where we're from and what we are about, they come from your identity, right? And it's a lot to do with, like for me, it's kind of not a part of my vocabulary. I definitely value empathy more than I value good. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like we all have and it's probably from where we come from or from what our relationships are as we kind of became who we were.
Yeah.
But for me, I couldn't, good means nothing to me, right? Because
Good for who? That's my
well,
question.
good for what and good
Yeah.
for who? But what does that mean? Are you being a good person? I think that to be a good person is to be empathetic and to be considerate, to be caring and to be kind. That's not good. Like you never want to be just good.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, and I agree with you, Susie. I lived this more times that I could, that I care to remember. But there's a lot of, it has a lot to do with, there's terminology that specifically falls into the realm of people trying to define women, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to define a female leader or a boss or a powerhouse or somebody who's starting to truck her way up, but now you're going to start to figure out what side of the spectrum she falls on. Is she good? Is she bad? Is she loud? Is she quiet? Is she obnoxious? Is she that's where they start to do the division, right? And you just gotta shut that down.
Yeah, and there's
no
so
such
much
thing.
demeaning language. Like even if you look at the term boss lady, which is a total buzzword at this point in time, right? It's like, okay, if you're a boss lady, you're either another B word right? And you're going that way, or you're like passive and then you're not really successful. Like people don't deem you as successful if you really don't stand in authority, right? And so it's really hard, and I had that experience actually. I had a male say to me, you know, you came out there and you really weren't likable when I did a talk. And the reason was because I was direct and I spoke the truth. And people didn't, the audience didn't like it and they weren't ready to receive it, but that's not my problem. The message needed to be delivered, and that's the message that I did deliver. What you do with that information after is your choice. It might be for you right now, it might be for you later, but he said, you're a really likable person, but what you just went and did, like, yeah, don't be so aggressive.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
Oh
aggressive?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I guess
Oh yeah. That's
that
just
that is the point. And I mean, well, yes, Susie, you know, you have kids, I have kids, and you want your kids to be good. And how many times? Just be good. You know?
Yeah.
And you know, oh, she's a really good person.
Yeah.
But you see,
they're there.
So like,
Yeah. And see,
it's
to, like
confusing.
when you use it in that context, like when I'm telling my kids to be good, quote unquote, what I'm really saying to them is that I need you to be considerate of other people's time right now, of mama's schedule right now, what I need to do, and this client or this meeting or whatever I'm having, I need you to be considerate and respectful of this time that I'm taking right now. You have to come with me maybe, but this is not the time to, you know, put yourself first and your wants first. This is about somebody else's time, you know? So again, it goes back to consideration and empathy and understanding that things come from a multitude of perspectives, and to say, you know, okay, this person needs my time right now. I need to not make this about me, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, that kind of point of view.
So, or do you have something?
No, I just, there's that terminology, you know. I remember when I did that TED Talk last year, and that's kind of what the whole thing was about. It was just about that terminology. Like it's just, you know.
And do we get hung up on it too?
Yeah, I think other people get hung up on
maybe
it.
that's, you know, you put that on your non-negotiables. I'm not going to be this, or you.
I think that we don't take enough time to go back to, you know, one of the episodes we did before where we talked about letters and writing cards and all of that, and you know, not really taking the time to express ourselves to people anymore. We use words in such an indisposable or disposable way, right? Where it's just, I just said something and I'm not really accountable to the words that I use. And so we don't really take enough time to think about, you know, when I'm describing Tracy, am I really being thoughtful and mindful of the words that I'm using to describe her? Or I'm like, these are nice adjectives. Let me just spit these off and make her feel good today. You know, so I think that it boils down to doing something similar to what I did, in the respect of take your time, figure out what's important to you, figure out what your boundaries are, figure out, you know, what terminology you like, what do you not like. Have conversations like this with your girlfriends, you know, about things, because we all know that when we get together, we start speaking like each other. And it's sometimes it's things you adopt and you're like, I didn't even realize I started using this word or whatever. So I think people need to like slow down in this day and age and be more mindful and be more intentional about what we're doing and what we're saying.
Yeah, especially in relationships.
So
family, But I mean, I think it comes down to identity, and I think the biggest challenge is that and I don't have kids, but I recognize the fact that, you know, do today's, that new kind of those 5, 6, 7-year-olds, are they being taught, and do they know the stuff that we used to be told and that I used to know?
I don't think so.
You know, and that's the challenge, because I've seen it, you know, you don't have a choice sometimes, that you're just kind of putting them in front of like a computer or a laptop or an iPad or whatever, and that's how they're defining themselves, right? That's
for sure
where they're looking for their but it's just a different world.
But I think that we all come from different backgrounds, which is super beautiful. And then we all come from different experiences that shaped us. So when I went back to Trinidad, for example, last time I was there in 2017, and I literally went to the bush, like where the house where my mom was born in, and people are still living there, and they are happy and content, and they're just like, we love you, we never met you, like, and I'm like, who are you? You know what I mean? But the love is so there and it's so rich. This time when we went, we stayed in the nicest hotel in the downtown of Trinidad, and very different experience. Yes. Right? And so you get to see the posh life side of it, which is very like, oh ma'am, let me take your stuff, like come into the business suite, all of this stuff. And then you see the other side of it where it's so humble. And I think that, you know what, the biggest thing that I love about going back the last time was you get to see where you come from. And I think these kids don't see the struggle of where their ancestors came from.
Absolutely.
And that's up to us. As a bonus parent, it's up to me to, you know, teach my bonus son his, you know, these are some lessons and these are where they come from and this is why we do these things. And I think as parents, we're so busy that sometimes we forget, and it's so easy to give them a device, or it's so easy. We had our backyards. We had our the street where you would literally play with the other kids that you went to school with or whatever. And so I think socializing kids, I think talking to them, you know, even my partner has said to me, talk to your parents. You never know when they're going to pass. They're in their 70s. Yeah. You know, my mom's late 60s but 70s, and learn from them. Ask them questions and pass down those things. And you know, when I hear you speak, Susie, I like admire you so much as a mother because you seem very sure of yourself and what's important.
That's all I question every single day what I'm doing and if it's right. But I guess that's parenthood, and I keep saying to my husband, like, if we are thinking about it this much, it must mean that we're doing it right.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
I feel, you know, how they behave at home, first of all, is one thing. How they behave in front of other people is totally different. And you know this, Tracy, right? Sometimes your kids drive you crazy. You just think, oh my gosh, like, am I doing anything right? Da, da, da. And then you meet somebody, they're just like, oh, your daughter or your son was so lovely. And you're just like, really? Like, were they? You know,
that's
like,
my kid.
so it actually does work. All this stuff that I'm saying, they're actually hearing and listening. But you know, it's one of those things where like my son's 13. I only have him for 5 more years as a child before he's a man, right? I have so much to impart onto him in those 5 years. And then the other 2, and it's just like, they are bombarded every single day with messages about who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to value. And it's just like, no, I have to try and erase all those things and bring it back to basics, right? And what's really important in that it's not stuff. It's not Instagram likes. It's not any of that stuff. It's about whether you are a kind person, an empathetic person. Would you stop and help somebody? Would you be able to be selfless in a situation where you needed to be? You know, those kind of things. Those are the things that are important to me.
Where do you think you get those core values from, though?
My mother.
Family.
And you mentioned it too. It's your identity and who you are. And who you are. And but having said that, though, too, I think that you are influenced by the people that you surround yourself.
No doubt.
And experiences that you have, and then you kind of blend and make. You know, everybody was saying that when, you know, on my birthday post, they were like, oh, welcome to your 30s. Like, this is where you really define yourself, and this is this. And, like, I'm like, oh, God. At this point, I was 7 days in, and I was like, it's been a character-building week. Nonetheless. But, no, I look at women of all ages, you know, and one of my girlfriends, she's a really successful business owner in the city, and she just had her birthday on the weekend, and I sent her a picture of when we were 19 years old, and I was like, look at us, and she's like, whoa, we're so different. But that's just the thing, we were so unsure of who we were back then. I don't know what my core values were. I don't know if I even knew the word. I just, you know, but to watch how life teaches you if you allow it to. Is such an amazing thing.
And I think too that, you know, one of the things that I've always said to myself is that there are no mistakes in life, there are only lessons, right? So things happen, and I'm not the kind of person who thinks that things happen to you, things happen around you, and you are a participant in them in many ways most of the time, and it's like you need to learn something from that so that you can do it differently the next time, or understand how that went off the rails so that you can do it differently the next time, you know, kind of thing. And so I think that that's one of those traits, resiliency, that builds character and helps you define those boundaries and say, okay, I don't want that ever to happen to me again. I'm not going to accept those kind of things in my life again, so I need to not be around people who display that kind of behavior, right?
And feeling more confident at an earlier stage, like trusting your intuition, right?
Absolutely.
And being like, this doesn't feel good. Oh yeah, muscle memory says this isn't good.
Those are instincts too, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I would almost throw instincts in the same realm of identity, right? Like if you don't know your gut feeling and you don't recognize that it's usually right, and there's a reason that you're feeling that icky feeling or that uncomfortableness or whatever that feeling is, and it's always something if you're if you're even remotely connected to yourself, you'll feel it. But my concern is always how many people are actually connected even to themselves.
Right, to hear that voice.
To even hear that conscious kind of whatever it is, if it's your gut, your instincts, whatever it is that's telling you that, you know, you may want to check yourself.
But to be connected, you have to be quiet.
To be connected, you have to be quiet, and to be connected, you have to have that self-talk. You have to be comfortable being alone, and to not be chasing something constantly, you know,
the
and
noise.
I think that whether it's social media or whatever it is, but we're chasing something.
So I have a question for you guys. What about validation? So I've heard a lot in this last little bit, you know, women that seek validation, and that comes in a multitude of ways. So do you think that, you know, when we're speaking of noise and the excess, right? Sometimes we put ourselves into business roles or relationships or even friendships or whatever because we're seeking validation from different areas.
Yeah.
And because you're so not in tune with yourself, you need that to be there
external
to fill you up.
And is that not almost like a spin-off to people being very narcissistic, and it's all about, and we say, oh, they're all full of themselves, it's all about them, but it's really their own insecurity and constantly needing that gratification, self-gratification. So validation is just like, wow, what does that mean?
And I think people confuse the two because narcissism isn't that. It's different.
No.
It's actually, you know, low self-esteem and insecurity and things like that do that. Narcissism is a bit more pathological, I think, than what Sheena's talking about. Is that right?
I think I'm just opening it up, you know, because I think that, again, we're in this day and age where, again, in Miami, it's very like people are very vain. Right? There's a lot of vanity. So you're walking down the strip and it's all like this with your phone or whatever.
Like people walk down the strip like that? Come on. Really? I would love to just sit there and people watch.
I was sitting eating a burger, right?
That you hadn't Instagrammed yet,
because I'm not on my phone like that, so I don't really care, right? Like I don't need to take a picture of my burger to let you know that I was here to eat this. And, you know, I don't think anybody really cares about that, right? But there were two people beside me, and it's like you couldn't help but overhear their conversation because they want you to hear their conversation. So they're talking about, you know, I'm practically famous, the amount of followers I have, da-da-da-da.
Okay, that makes you want to cry.
And I was like, I can't wait to finish this burger and leave. Because one, I think that to be anything successful, whether that's a successful mom, a successful partner, a successful business owner, you need to be humble. And it's funny because that's the lesson my mom gave me like last year, start being humble. And I was like, ooh, that's hard for me because I'm extremely confident. And it's hard to be confident and humble in the same breath. It's a fine line in my opinion. I'm still working on it. But yeah, I think that, you know, just that, what are those people looking for? It's like that validation, the recognition. Does that really make you...
And it's like,
Well, but do they know any different? I mean, their entire life has been, that's the generation that never not had a phone,
but these people
that's
literally,
crazy.
These people were like my age.
Okay, well,
like,
that's a whole...
unacceptable to me, right? And I think unless you truly have a business and you use social media for that or whatever, you know, that's not your whole life. It's a bubble.
It's a bubble.
I know.
You know?
I think that in that case, I think it's very much a symptom of the culture down there, though. That whole Kardashian lifestyle is just so in your face down there. I don't think you can escape it. And I think that everyone kind of does feel on some level that they're on their own reality show. And I think that they really feed into that whole thing. And I think that we have a very different landscape up here.
I disagree.
Really?
I go dancing every Wednesday night at Soul Supreme. That is my jam. Like, love it. And again, it's like people are I go to sweat and salsa dance and like I love it. And other people are out with their phones and it's like I need to capture all of this, but you're just looking into the camera. And I'm not knocking anybody who does this. I just think I'm not somebody who does it. So I would love to understand a little bit more why.
I love that. Have you seen Jumanji, the latest Jumanji?
No, I
The
haven't.
reincarnation.
I
There's
wanna see it.
one point where the kid who's been trapped in the game for 20 years goes, does phone mean something different in the future? Because everyone keeps mentioning phone, and it's
Got
just
it.
like, oh, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Because we've made it into this whole other thing. You don't even use it for a phone, really.
No.
Like,
There's a lot of
you
them
talk to somebody. Who wants to talk to somebody?
Yeah.
Just text me, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So yeah, I know what you mean in terms of
why
using it as a mirror
I know. What do I do?
and putting yourself into, you know, Instagrammable shots and, you know, taking the right angle and taking 100 selfies before you post the perfect one. And it's just like, I question, you know, what we are saying our values are when that is the behavior we're taking on.
And then
Yes.
especially if you're a parent, like a young parent who has little ones who now watch this, and what are we teaching them
they're
who
doing
are
it.
coming?
They're
They
doing
already
it.
know.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And some things are, and they're glamorized when they're young. You know, I even follow a few pages on Instagram, and it's like young kids fashion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you're not letting them be, it's very fine line.
Yes.
I was watching Late Twins, who danced for Beyonce, right? So there was a video, and they're teaching, I think they're amazing, but there was a little girl, and she is just popping and locking amazing, right? Then there comes on another girl, and this girl didn't have like as hard of moves, like she wasn't hitting it as hard, but she was doing more of like the twerking stuff. And I'm like, you are easily 7, easily. And this is not an art form.
Yeah.
Like when you're a grown woman and you could follow up those actions with something, then you can do those. But as a child, I was like, why is this being celebrated?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and there's grown men around you and this is being celebrated. I think that there's too much over sexualization. I think that social media makes it way too
for
easy.
sure.
No doubt.
Right? And
Yeah.
then we wonder why I just read something today saying that, you know, being a pedophile is now going to be normal.
Oh my God. What? No.
That's terrifying.
It's
Yes.
extremely terrifying.
Yeah.
And so going back to what you were saying, it's so important to take your kids back to basics on, you know, the fundamentals of who they are, and this is the core of who you are, and this is what we believe in. And if anything, you know, forces you or attempts to force you to go outside of that, then you know what? Like, go back to your basics, teaching them those fundamentals. Because I don't think we're doing that anymore as a whole.
Yeah, I don't disagree, for sure.
Well, now that we solved all the world's problems, I don't know, but well, you know what? I don't think that we're doing a bad job. You know, in what we do and everything like that, and getting it coming full circle. I think we're good.
I think people do the best they can.
Do the best they can,
People
yeah.
They do the best they can with what they have.
And when you know better, you do better.
Yeah, when you know better.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
You know, but there are people who know better that don't do better. But as a whole, on a positive note, people, the ones who get it, and the ones who don't get it
need to be getting it.
You know, it might be a
maybe
moment.
if they're listening to this or see this, then they will
maybe
get it.
check your check your babies.
Well, and I think just being a model, right? Like there was no bashing of anything at this table today, and there doesn't need to be. We are all going to leave here and do things differently, and that's okay, and that's to be celebrated. But I think the ability to come together and have discussions about things that we don't always know the answer to. I learned some things today, and I think that's the best part of it. And if I can take that and, you know, teach somebody else, then, you know, this is what I really came up with in the past couple weeks was, I want to be a woman who extends my hand back to another woman, who pulls up another woman. And so if we're all doing that, overall we'll be a better society and we'll all do good.
Oh, cheers to sisterhood.
Cheers, yes.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so who got some really good deals for summer shopping?
I haven't started yet.
I went on a crazy binge before my travels. Yeah.
Really?
Where did you shop?
Well, don't leave it here.
I went to RW and Co. And I
Yes,
normally
I love
don't
RW.
though. I normally
love.
don't, but I got a lot of good stuff from there. And then just skirts and tops, and then I got a bunch of dresses. But I'm still on keto though. Today's a bad day because I cheated yesterday, but I'm still on keto. It's so good. It is so good. It's like legitimately the best thing I've ever done in life.
Have you eaten 2 grapes? How did you even survive the wedding then? Like,
I just don't eat. I just eat meat. So I'll just eat I won't eat the burger. I'll just eat. You know, I won't eat pasta. I'll eat just
Oh, yeah, it's just.
Yeah, just don't eat all the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Just
eat,
the meat.
Eat the good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
till next time, girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. Take care. It's good having you back, Shannon.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
Welcome
so
back.
excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh.